Hey everybody, welcome back to Cast Album Chat with Tyler. Thanks for joining me again. Today I've got a short little video prepared for you. I have spoken about this musical a couple of times in some of my past videos, and it just, I went down the rabbit hole, I listened to what I could, I did some research. So since the weather is a little hot, as I said last time, let's strip it down and talk a little bit about the Full Monty. As always, a little background on the musical before we get into the recordings themselves. The Full Monty is based on a movie from, I believe it's 1997, that takes place in England, kind of in the north of England, in Sheffield, of some men that are down and out of work, and they're running into different problems with their family, and their lack of work is kind of exacerbating these problems. So, come 2000, David Yazbek and Terrence McNally write the musical out-of-town tryout in San Diego, very successful there, and makes a very quick transfer to Broadway. So it opens later in 2000, I believe it was about October-ish. And the setting has been changed. It is now an American musical, takes place in Buffalo, New York, as opposed to Sheffield. And the score, I was going to do a whole video about David Yazbek because I'm such a super fan. I can't think of anyone that writes more interesting music, to be quite honest, for the theater nowadays. But I just kind of look back, starting at Full Monty, and how, I don't want to say promising because it sounds like, you can see the talent there. No, it's amazing from the beginning. But, Full Monty, Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, Women on the Verge of a Nervous Breakdown, which is another show that kind of needs to receive its due, Band's Visit. Tootsie is a musical that I actually hadn't listened to till the other day when I was thinking of doing a full video for David Yazbek, and I was actually loving the score to the whole show. And then he recently wrote Dead Outlaw with Eric De La Pena as well, writing some music. So I felt like I had to do a video of David Yazbek music, because especially in the Full Monty from the very beginning, whatever you want, you've got it in the score. You've got up-tempo, you've got ballads, you've got comedic ballads, group numbers, solo numbers, and it has an interesting sound to it. It's kind of a bluesy sound. I don't know. I don't know exactly how to talk about this in a technical way, but it's almost kind of got a big band sound as well, but it's kind of sometimes borders on pastiche, but it's not, because it's completely original, and in some way it's fresh and inventive music, but it is almost kind of dated, so it sets you in that world of where everything is, the world has passed this place by. That Buffalo is not the place that you want to be, without a job, have family problems. So that's a little bit about the musical. We'll get into the recordings right now. As I will often admit in my videos, I don't know very much about rights or how recordings come about. I probably need to inform myself a little bit more. But I'm kind of astounded, not just with the Full Monty, but with David Yazbek's other shows, that they're so rarely recorded. So as you can see in the name of this video, there are only 3 recordings of the Full Monty, which is shocking to me, considering, that there have been productions all over North America, South America. I remember it was a huge explosion of productions in Europe in the early 2000s, especially in Scandinavia. So, it's a little sad that this show has gone unrecorded by so many companies. The 3 that we have, I don't want to say they're kind of from 3, well, of course you get the original Broadway cast, so that's in English, it's normal, it's standard. The other 2 recordings we have are not so common. So it's a nice surprise to hear a show in these languages, but not really what I would have expected, considering how many productions of the show came out right after the Broadway production and then the West End production. Starting from the very beginning, we have the 2000 Broadway cast recording. This is where it all began. And I have to say, if you've got this recording, you don't really need to look any further. This is kind of the pinnacle of what we have right now of recorded full Monty, which is not to say the other recordings are not worth getting. We'll get into them in a second. But this is just uniformly pretty damn great. The cast, from top to bottom, I really have, there's nothing negative to say about any of them. I know that the music director was Ted Sperling for this production, and it was conducted by Kimberly Grigsby. So musically, already you're in great hands. And then with this cast here, Patrick Wilson, John Ellison Conley, Jason Daniele, Romain Fouget, let's see, Andre de Shields. I mean, you can't go wrong. I mean, this is just such a fantastic cast. And in the female cast, you have Annie Golden, Emily Skinner. It truly doesn't get any better than this. And I was kind of just listening through some of the recordings to prepare for this video a little bit, and I just kind of wanted to scan through, put it on the treadmill, get going. I listened to the whole thing. I couldn't stop because it's just so good and so well cast. So this should be streaming somewhere. Unfortunately, I can't add any clips of this recording because you can probably stream it anywhere. I don't ever want to run into problems with copyright. For sure, I just want to make sure that people are able to listen to these recordings when they can. So being a physical collector, of course, you can pick this up on Amazon. It's not going to cost you very much money, and it's well worth it. It's one of my favorite scores. I was going to say the last 20-something years, but it's truly one of my favorite scores of all time. The cast can't be beat. The orchestra can't be beat. Speaking about the orchestra, I believe I was looking on MTI Musical Theater International, that owns the rights, that the orchestra for this, I think it might have been supplemented just a little bit, but not very much more than what you would have heard in the theater. I do like this orchestra probably the best because it's fully fleshed out. You get those recorders in Big Ass Rock. It really reminds me of the Carpenters song Sing. Just kind of takes you back to a different era. And I don't know, I cannot say enough good things about this recording. So if you're going to start anywhere or end anywhere, this is the recording to go to. It's the 2000 Broadway cast recording of the Full Monty. Moving right along to 2001, the show premiered in Spain. But this production might not exactly be what you think it is. So it premiered in Barcelona. As I've spoken about in other videos before, Barcelona is in the autonomous region of, the community of Catalonia. The capital is Barcelona. And in Catalonia, the official language is Catalan. This is not Castilian. That's a different thing. There's Castilian and Catalan. Catalan in English would be Catalonian. And they are just as different from each other as Spanish and Italian, Spanish and French. There are some things that are mutually intelligible, but the pronunciation is very different. And you can't just take a Spanish translation and turn it into a Catalan translation or vice versa. They are grammatically very different languages at times. There are a lot more monosyllabic words in Catalan than in Spanish. So the cool thing about Catalan is that the translation sometimes can be a bit more direct because they do have those one-syllable words. But enough about linguistics. This is the 2001 Barcelona cast recording of The Full Monty. I never took off the price tag here. I don't know why. I just thought it was nice and authentic. But this looks very much like the original Broadway cast recording as far as the cover is concerned. There is a little bit of text at the top that would kind of tip you off. Of course, it doesn't say original Broadway cast recording. And then the credits down here, it says Llibret de Terrence McNally and Lletres y Músicas de David Yazbek. So all of that is in Catalan, of course. This recording, I was saying the original Broadway recording is so solid that maybe you don't need to look any further. You can definitely look further and find a great recording here. Word of warning, this is a little difficult to find, but I have found it a couple of times over the years, so just keep an eye out. It'll be out there, especially if you're looking at sellers from Spain. If you're on eBay or Discogs or something, you'll be able to find it a lot easier. This cast and orchestra, well, let me start with the orchestra. Manuel Gas, if you see his name on a recording, you know you're in good hands. Although surprisingly, this was a little bit more by the book than I thought it was going to be. It's not over there. Oh, it's right behind me. The Barcelona cast recording of Sweeney Todd. That was the first recording that I had with Manuel Gas as the music director and conductor. And it was a bit more revisionist than what I was expecting. So when I heard this recording, I don't want to say pleasantly surprised. I don't have anything against being a revisionist music director, but it sounds very, very much like the original orchestra on this recording for Barcelona. You do get a few little, of course, you know, some of the improv bits in the overture are quite different. You actually get a little bit more of that organ, that kind of jazz organ in the background, which I love in a few numbers, especially the overture and It's a Woman's World. And you get the overture again at the very end. It's called Final. So it's just kind of like the last track. And from what I can tell, it's the same thing as the first track, the overture. But the track list is exactly the same as the Broadway cast album, except for that final track is added on there just to kind of fill out the recording. And this cast, you know, some of these names, if you know anything about Catalan musical theater, Marc Martínez, Daniel Claramunt, Angel Yasser, who's very famous in Spain, not only in the Catalan-speaking world, but in the Spanish-speaking world as well. Xavi Mateo, Xavier Mestres, Miquel Angel Ripeu. Interestingly enough, the translators, there were two translators for this version in Catalan. Roger Peña, who comes from kind of a dynasty family in Catalan theater, and Roser Batalla. Roser Batalla is a really interesting person because she started mostly as a performer. So she is on a lot of recordings as a singer. She's a fantastic singer and actress. And then she kind of moved into translating. So more times than not, if you look and see who's translated a musical into either Catalan or into Spanish in Spain, Roser Batalla is a name that you will see a lot. She plays Pam on this recording. She doesn't really get to do very much. You can't hear her there, but I just think it's interesting that she was wearing two hats for this production. So usually in a recording of the Full Monty, the bulk of what we have is sung by the group of men. You know, you do have A Woman's World. I keep forgetting the names of these because I listen to the Catalan recording a lot, so sometimes I forget the English lyrics. The Goods, You Rule My World. You know, there are some spots there for the female cast to kind of take the lead as well. But you know, we have to talk about Life with Harold. Emily Skinner seems like she's unbeatable. Honestly, she's so fantastic in the original recording. But I really have to point out Monet, who sings this. She just has one name, just Monet. I think her last name is Teruel, but she has been credited here and in other recordings, like Into the Woods from Barcelona and Girona. She did a promo when she was in the Spanish-speaking company of Mamma Mia. She is fantastic. And I don't think I realized how fantastic she was just because she knocks it out of the park. It sounds very easy when she sings the song. But you know, listening to her on other recordings, on the Into the Woods recordings, I kind of went down another rabbit hole of, I was listening to see if I could pronounce her name properly because I was wondering if it was Monet or Mona, as it would be in Catalan. But it's Monet. And she has a lot of videos on YouTube, and they're worth checking out. She does the witch's rap from Into the Woods in Catalan with just a guitar player, and it is life-changing. So definitely check that out, those videos, and check out this recording for her, for the men. And I also have a little shout out here for Jeanette. And on this recording, she is played by, let me see if I can find her.
2 hours later.
Here she is. Carmen Contreras. Might not be well known to many people outside of Spain, but she definitely sounds like she's been through it. And the interesting thing about it, when I heard her voice, I just kept thinking of how gravelly it is. But it's full of character. And she was, before she passed away, I believe she passed away a couple of years ago, was the voice in Catalan of Marge Simpson on The Simpsons. So that gives you an idea of who's playing Jeanette on this recording. She really infuses it with a lot of character, and I really, really like her number. So this is another recording that I think is well worth finding if you can. It's a completely valid alternate to the Broadway recording. It's got the same cuts of the music. The orchestra sounds very similar. Only downside is it doesn't have the recordings in Big Ass Rock. And that's really the only negative thing I can say about it. And it's a little bit more difficult, well, quite a bit more difficult to find, so it might be a little bit more expensive when you find it. But if you do find it, snatch it up. This is the 2001 Barcelona cast recording of The Full Monty. And the very last, and unfortunately the least, we do have the 2002 Athens cast recording of The Full Monty. Yes, this is The Full Monty in Greek. I kind of want to start this little section by saying I never want to talk crap about a recording. I think theater in and of itself is just so difficult. And then making a recording of that's a representation of a certain production is even more difficult. I think comparison is inevitable when you're speaking about recordings. And one doesn't really cancel out the other one. You can enjoy both of them simultaneously, even if they're night and day different. But I will say about this recording, I'm going to go back to the music direction, I think, on this one. It looks like I had to write down these names because I cannot read these notes here because it's all in Greek. It's all Greek to me. Music director was Alexios Priftis. And he's got some interesting takes, but a lot of the time he and the band don't use the original arrangements. So it kind of goes off in a left field. With Big Ass Rock, for example, you don't have that same feeling. It turns into just kind of a regular ballad. He does use some harmonica in it, which is interesting, but I think it kind of takes away the original meaning of the song and didn't add anything new. If I thought that the harmonica added a new level to the song, then maybe I would be into it more, but I'm truly not. And the cast, I don't want to say they're not strong. When they do have solo numbers, they have nice voices. They just don't sound like they have a lot of energy. You're really missing that Andre DeShille's energy, or that Emily Skinner or Monet energy from the other two recordings. This cast, they just don't gel very well, and I don't know if that's an engineering situation or if that is a musical direction situation. But there are a lot of clashing chords. In the opening number, Scrap. I'm sorry. Ooh. So yeah, there are a lot of clashing chords in the opening number, Scrap, and they don't sound planned in this version. It just kind of sounds really kind of sloppily sung. I will say the leading man, Theodoros Athoridis, does a fine job. He sings his songs in a lower key than the other Jerrys. Actually, from the original Broadway cast recording. Of course, I think that the keys are the highest in that recording, and the Catalan recording is a little bit lower, and then this is the lowest key on this recording. I don't think that changes the way that the energy comes across. It just feels a little bit anemic. The full overture is not on this recording. It's just kind of like a little snippet there, and it goes right into Scrap. I don't know. It just feels like a missed opportunity for me. Maybe this is what the production actually sounded like, which is, in my opinion, as far as the recording of a show, I love it when the album actually sounds like what was on stage. So if this is a good representation of the production, I'm more than happy to have it. You can never have too many cast recordings, honestly, unless you're running out of money, which, I'm glad that this exists. We don't get a lot of Greek cast recordings. I will say that, one of the good things to come out of this, the Jeanette Sophia Philippidou, is actually quite good and is quite a bit younger than a normal Jeanette. She's actually prominently featured on the cover here. And in the middle, some of these pictures here in the middle, I'll throw up some of these images as well so you can see them. I would say you probably don't have to go out of your way to find this recording. It is now probably not the rarest. I think that would be the Catalan recording. But you can find Greek recordings sometimes on eBay, Greek stores, and even Discogs. So if you are very interested to hear this recording, definitely go search for it, but don't bend over backwards trying to find it. And that's all we have for the full Monty. It breaks my heart that we only have 3 recordings of this score. Kind of looking down at the other recordings of David Yazbek's pieces of theater, Dirty Rotten Scoundrels only has 2. Women on the Verge of a Nervous Breakdown technically has 2. I've spoken about the London cast recording in other videos. Band's Visit only has 1. Tootsie only has 1. And we have 0 for Dead Outlaw. So I would love to see more of his music being recorded because I just fell in love with it from the very beginning, which is the full Monty, and have been enamored ever since. So that's really all I have to say about the full Monty. I could probably talk about it for hours, just rambling on about each song and each cast member from each recording. But that's just a little bit of a rundown that you have here. So recap here, the original Broadway recording, the original Barcelona cast recording, and the original Greek cast recording from Athens. And so I will try to put a few clips on here. Like I said, I don't want to run afoul of any rights situations. Just want to make sure that people can kind of hear what these sound like, and if they're worth searching for all the collectors out there. So once again, thank you so much for joining me. Make sure you like, subscribe, and definitely comment down below. I love having conversations with people in comments if you send messages. You can also join me on Instagram at Cast Album Chat. But I will keep on producing new videos every week. I'm enjoying this so much, and I cannot thank you enough for coming back and enjoying these videos with me. Thanks again. See you soon. Bye.
Fixa't, és com una figureta de porcellana. Es faria miques.
Jo l'estimo! Treballa pobret com un boig. Jo li dic que descansi i anem uns dies a Bali. I al costat del mar, torrat sota el sol, seria feliç. Digue-li, rei meu, com t'estimo un Harold. Vaig fer Diana amb en Harry, sí, és el rei del meu cor. És un sol, un bombó i m'encén de passió per això mateix. Només tinc ulls per ell. L'estimo a ell. Sí, l'estimo a ell. Soc tota d'ell.
Ρε φίλε θέλω να έχω δουλειά, θέλω να μην με πετάνε γυμνό στα σκυλιά. Θέλω ρε μεγάλε. Αυτοκτονείς και θέλεις να μας πεις πως δεν νοιάστηκε ποτέ κανείς εσένα. Αγόρι μου, ωραία την έχεις δει, βλαμμένο. Πως παίξαμε τσι αδέρφια.
Μπούμπης θέλει κέφια, θα φάμε ξύλο.
Θα φάμε ξύλο.
Θα φάμε ξύλο. Ξέρετε τι έλεγε η Κέιτ Σμιθ για μια κακή πρόβα? Μια κακή πρόβα σημαίνει μια πολύ κακή παράσταση. Ξύλο.